Good morning and welcome to the Mike and Kev show. We're here until 10 o'clock when it's my show. That's the Independent Republic of Mike Graham without Kev. But here he is this morning. Very good morning to you, Kevin.
Hello, Mike.
Very nice to see you. We're all back to where we were before. Boris Johnson being probed by the police.
Unbelievable.
What is going on?
Unbelievable.
Come on.
I mean, there's two things about this. I couldn't care less. If he does get found guilty, as you just said, he'll get £100 fine. And
what's the point?
And the Exchequer will have wasted hundreds of thousands of pounds on this case. The one thing I do quite like about it is he's being hoisted by his own petard. He imposed these stupid rules. It's thought that the rules he allegedly broke at Chequers were the rule of 6. You remember that?
I do remember that.
That particular absurdity.
You could have 10 tables of 6, but you couldn't have 6 tables of 10.
Exactly. So it's thought that may be the rule that he's accused of breaking, and so it serves him right. It serves him right.
But also, quite interestingly, apparently people are saying that the reason that he's been caught out is that he gave all of his secret diaries, which are not that secret in the first place, to the Cabinet Office. The Cabinet Office have gone, oh, look at that, we'll give that to the police. I mean, what are they thinking? The country is in a dire state, and all they want to do is hand things over to the police, who haven't got enough time to even arrest people for doing Just Stop Oil protests. So they're out again this morning, by the way.
Of course they are. But now the civil service and the Cabinet Office are trying to say, no, we're absolutely obliged to do this, because, as you quite rightly say, Boris Johnson handed over his prime ministerial diaries to the COVID inquiry, which is looking into how he handled the COVID crisis. I can give him an answer now. Really, really badly. So there, saved you millions of pounds. You don't have to have your inquiry anymore. Anyway, he hands over his diaries to the inquiry. Cabinet Office go through the diaries. Oh, look, it looks like he's broken the rules. So they hand them to the police.
But I mean, the fact of the matter is surely
bunch of grasses.
Most people did break the rules in some way, shape or form.
Of course they did.
I mean, I was told last night there are still people being prosecuted through the courts, which shouldn't be happening, by the way. But apparently, some people are still being chased through the courts to pay fines.
Give it up.
They really need to give it up. But the other story I want to talk to you about is Prince Harry. You know, the bloke who's got something like 6 different court cases going on in the same building.
What's the matter with him?
I mean, he really is acting like a spoilt brat, isn't he? He's like, I want some protection. I want protection from Prince Harry. I want the police to make sure he doesn't bother me anymore for the rest of this year, because he's been back every time he moans backwards and forwards from California, where apparently he says it's too dangerous to come here. But apparently every time he comes here, he launches another lawsuit, and it's now costing us, we think, 300,000 quid.
Yeah, it's cost the taxpayer. This latest skirmish in the High Court, in which he's claiming that he ought to be able to pay for police protection when he comes here. The police, of course, quite rightly saying we're not guns for hire. This is going to cost the taxpayer arguably £300,000 at least, if not more.
Well, because he's not got another case going on where he's asking for protection
he's
or something
costing
else.
the taxpayers a fortune. And what the judge concluded in this latest case about whether or not he can hire the police was, A, he cannot, because no one can. No one is able to pay for the British police to come and protect them. And B, the judge said, well, why should you be a special case? If we say, yes, you can pay for the police, who else will be able to pay?
But this is what we know about...
He sees himself as particularly special.
But this is... Well, he is, and this is the trouble with Prince Harry. He thinks of himself as a law unto himself. He thinks of himself as more important than anybody else in the royal family. He wants to be treated differently than everybody else in the royal family by the royal family. Now he wants to be treated differently by the police.
And I'll tell you what this case is really about, Mike. It's his pathetic pursuit of status.
Yes.
He's terrified that when he comes here, he doesn't get the same treatment as the King or Princess Anne. Well, of course you don't. You're no longer really a proper royal.
No.
You're just other Hollywood celebrity. So tough luck, Buster.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just he wants to be a VIP. He wants us to all look up to him. He's just a pathetic little boy.
I was in New York. I don't know whether you saw my little video that I produced as I was coming in on the Van Wyck Expressway from Kennedy Airport. I filmed my very own near-catastrophic car chase. Very near-catastrophic. In fact, it was so near-catastrophic, it wasn't catastrophic at all. And I was doing about the same speed as he was probably doing, which was about 25 miles an hour.
If that.
We managed to pass one yellow cab very slowly. But there's 4 lanes of traffic. You know, the place is gridlocked beyond compare.
It's like I keep saying, why did they release that statement? Near catastrophic. Look, If I said to you, I went to an outdoor garden party last night, it nearly rained.
Yes.
What that means is it didn't
right.
rain. So what near catastrophic means is it wasn't catastrophic.
But you know what's
so why
interesting?
did they release that statement? I'll tell you why. Because they want to be in the headlines.
Because what's interesting about all stories surrounding Harry and Meghan now is that they hit for 24 hours and they disappear.
Yeah.
You know, they were demanding to see the footage that the paparazzi had, right? Well, if the paparazzi had any decent footage, they would have published it, because that's what paparazzis do.
Yeah.
They don't keep it secret.
Yeah.
But I love the fact that they said to him, well, maybe if you're a king, you can demand people give you stuff. We're not giving you anything.
Well,
the story's gone away now.
Yeah, well, what the agency said was that, in case you didn't notice, Prince Harry, about 200 or 300 years ago, this country fought a war of independence in order not to have to do what members of the royal family tell us.
Tremendous.
And therefore, you can stick your demand for our property right up where the sun don't shine, up your royal backside.
Exactly right. How's that for a Windsor framework, as they would say?
Yeah.
But what about potholes, right? Because we talk a lot about potholes on this station. Everybody else is now talking about it.
You've got some statistics, right?
I've got some amazing statistics here. Apparently, in April alone, according to the AA, 52,000 motorists had their vehicles damaged by potholes. That's practically 2,000 a day.
That's really bad.
It's horrendous. And I mean, I have to say, I know that New York City does have some bad pothole problems. It used to always have those big metal plates. But I was in Connecticut, where my sister lives, and no potholes there at all. And they've got plenty of cars driving around, but the roads are actually pretty good.
Well, I'll tell you a thing.
We can't seem to do that.
The thing about American roads is they use more expensive tarmac than we do.
Do they?
We
problem?
use a very cheap kind of a tarmac, and that's why potholes form. So, in other words, it's a false economy to use cheap tarmac, because it breaks down and potholes form. I mean, when you drive over one of those big potholes, and it makes that bang, you think, my God, what did that do to my car? Well, sometimes it completely breaks them.
Well, it does. Apparently, the latest statistics suggest 2023 could prove to be one of the worst years for potholes since 2017, which is when the AA started recording them.
It's a metaphor for the decline of this country. Yeah, it really is.
Because there are some sections of road now, and I talk about parts of Sussex and parts of London, where it's not just that it's potholed, it's kind of so uneven that you go over it and you're literally like this, you know.
It's like driving on the surface of the moon or something.
It is. And I mean, it has. I mean, I know parts of South East London where the roads have been that bad for about 2 years and nobody's done anything about it.
Yeah, exactly. I think we should do something about it. Let's talk about, I would suggest, the biggest idiot in Westminster against very stiff opposition.
Very big area.
And I talk, of course, of that man no one's thought of for at least a year, the most obscure party leader ever known in politics, Sir, and I put that in quotation marks, Sir Ed Davey. Who says...
What did he get a knighthood for?
He said, for being a...
services to idiocy.
Person. Anyway, he goes on to some obscure radio station yesterday and said it's quite clear that women do have penises.
Yeah, clear.
No, Ed... I mean, as I tweeted yesterday, am I going to be the one to tell him, or will you? No, Ed. Women cannot have penises.
No.
I don't know where you went to school or university or what you studied, but your knowledge has a bit of a gap here. Women cannot have penises.
Right.
Why do you say quite clearly? If I would suggest this guy wants votes from women, I would advise all women, since he thinks that women can have penises, don't vote for Sir Ed Davey.
Well, don't worry.
What an ocean-going fool.
Don't worry, because nobody votes for them anyway.
Yeah,
so,
but the trouble is,
no chance.
Trouble is, the way things are going, that dork is going to be standing next to that other dork, Keir Starmer, when they walk into number 10 Downing Street.
We can have two knights of the realm running the country. That'd be great, wouldn't it?
Coalition of chaos.
I can't wait.
Coalition of something else that begins with C. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Do you know what I always find amusing is when people say, you're not going to be out and you're going to be out of a job. You know, I can't wait for Keir Starmer to be Prime Minister, particularly if he has Ed Davey as his wingman, because that will just be hilarity every day. Yeah,
well, actually, for those people who feel that we will suffer a great downfall if Keir Starmer gets into number 10 Downing Street, in journalism, everybody, it's always better to be in opposition. Your numbers go up, your sales go up. Yeah. That's the way it is. So we're not worried about Keir Starmer getting in. We're going to have a field day.
Exactly right. I don't think he is going to get in, by the way, actually. I
think he might with Sir Ed Penis at his side.
Sir Ed Penis, it's a good name for him. What about the SNP? It says apparently that they could lose 21 seats in Scotland, which would probably be good news for Keir Starmer, because if the SNP does self-destruct, the wheels have literally come off the motorhome
Yeah, well, well, Hamza, what is that about the motorhome?
Right.
Yeah, that was it, £110,000.
120, I think.
Parked for 2 years.
Nobody knows why.
Outside Nicola Sturgeon's mother-in-law's place.
That's it.
What was it for?
Mrs. Muddle, what are you doing with a great big bus in the front yard, and why has nobody asked you about it before?
I'm not casting any aspersions, Mike,
Certainly
but
not.
I think we should look into the history of SNP members' holidays over the last couple of years.
That might well be
what
doing.
form of transport they use, if you know what I'm saying.
Absolutely right.
But Hamza Yousaf, useless, is disappearing down the same rabbit hole as Sturgeon, saying that this awful man who committed this sex assault for 27 hours on a poor little girl, a male paedophile rapist who now identifies as a woman, Hamza Yousaf says he might go to a female jail. Why, Hamza? Could you explain that, please?
No, he doesn't want to say, though, does he? He says he doesn't want to tell everybody. He doesn't seem to realise, these people, that actually you're voted in by the electorate to represent the electorate. It's not a private fiefdom. You don't get to be the First Minister and do whatever the hell you like. You actually have to represent the people that elected you and who pay you, by the way, which brings us back to Boris Johnson. He's now threatening to sue the government. I mean, what's wrong with these people? It's not as if we haven't got enough problems to fix, right? But what we do have is loads of money, taxpayers' money, to throw around to give lawyers. The lawyers are all the only people getting rich in this country.
Yeah, I mean, and all this Boris nonsense is costing us millions. I mean, you know, he stands accused of breaking the law, has done the COVID laws, and he's done that before. So we'll see where that investigation goes. He says that he's been the victim of a stitch-up. Yes, you have, Boris. Get used to it. Yeah. You shouldn't have brought those stupid rules in that you couldn't understand yourself. Then you wouldn't be in trouble, would you? You idiot.
Kevin's feeling a little bit angry this morning.
Well, I'm so sick of it.
Calm down. It's only 10 to 10. Now, listen, never mind what happened during the COVID pandemic, as they like to call it, because there's something else coming around the corner. I don't know whether you've heard from old Dr. Tedros Adhanom
the World Health Organization.
Or otherwise
Doctor
known
Who.
as... We call him Tedros because we can't pronounce the rest of his name. Apparently, he says we should prepare ourselves for a thing even more deadly than COVID. So I guess, in other words, not very deadly then.
Yeah, not very deadly, yeah. I mean, this is the World Health Organization that should be put out of business tomorrow. It is a scourge, a real threat to the future of humanity. That's where our problems lie, not with some pandemic. What they want to do is, at the first sign that a couple of people are giving each other colds, they want to do the lockdown thing again. They want to lock down all countries. They seem to feel that the COVID crisis proved that humanity can beat a virus. I don't think it did anything of the sort. I think it proved the opposite. We are powerless against viruses. And the COVID crisis proved it. Lockdowns didn't work. Social distancing didn't work. The rule of six didn't work, as Boris is finding out, etc., etc.
Boris is more in favour of the rule of sex, I think, than the rule of six. That seems to be the case with him. But how about this from Dr. Tedros, right? This is the it's the opposite of social distancing. You all pile in, get as close to each other as
possible.
As you possibly
Go for
can.
it. Have another kid, Boris.
That's
go on.
Right. So here's Dr. Tedros' kind of amazing warning to the world. This is what he said: "We cannot kick this can down the road." Well, it doesn't sound that frightening, does it? When the next pandemic comes knocking, and it will, we must be ready to answer decisively, collectively, and equitably.
Yeah. Hey, Tedros.
Okay, Tedros.
Tedros, there's a can on the end of my boot. Watch me kick it down the road. Now shut up and go away.
Exactly right.
What an idiot.
I know.
Everybody's an idiot.
They got it all wrong, didn't they? That was the problem.
Yeah. I mean, but they also dismissed the fact that the most successful country in the eye of the COVID storm was Sweden, that didn't lock down. They're still coming up with excuses for why Sweden did the best. It's easy. It's because they didn't lock down.
Right.
I mean, come on.
Yeah, exactly.
It's ridiculous that the World Health Organization is a threat to world health.
It's unfortunately true. Barry says this: how did Sue Gray, a highly paid civil servant, miss these further problems at Chequers? How did Starmer get away with his party in Durham? Labour Police Commissioner, Johnson prosecuted in London, Labour Police Commissioner doesn't seem impartial. I think that's a good point. You know, what happened to Sue Gray's investigation, presumably when she investigated what was going on at Downing Street? Chequers might have come up at some point, mightn't it? Yeah,
and I think that hopefully she had enough time to devote to the Partygate investigation while she was deep in secret negotiations with Keir Starmer to join the Labour Party. I hope she did have enough time to carry out that probe. But yeah, I mean, Boris, I might sue. I'm the victim of a stitch-up. Yeah, you are.
Yeah.
Of course you are. Get used to it. Nobody cares anymore.
No.
You're pointless. You're over. You're gone. You're never coming back. Can't somebody persuade
I wish somebody
him
would
of
tell
this?
him that. Simon in Lewis says, Mike, could you actually listen to Kevin and let him get to his punchlines? You'll find he's hilarious.
What you been talking about?
I don't know what he's talking
I don't know
about.
about any punchlines.
So I already know you're hilarious. I've known you for about 48,000 years. Anyway, never mind about that, Simon. You just carry on listening. Now,
Thank you, Simon. Well spotted.
The other big story breaking this morning, of course, is we've got some new inflation figures, and they're finally down to 8.7%. Does this mean that the doctors' demands will go down, that the teachers' demands will go down, and that the railway workers' demands will go down?
Do you know what's great about this is you have a look at watch the BBC. Don't do it too.
Try not to.
Try not to do it too often, but watch the newsreaders when they have to say that inflation's gone down and that the economy has grown. I mean, the expressions on the economy has grown very slightly.
Yes.
You know, no, it's grown. It's grown. Anyway, I blame Brexit.
Yeah, but don't worry, we'll find some more bad news for you before the top of the next hour.
Yeah.
But this is the other thing, right?
We'll find something else to blame on Brexit.
Yeah, do you remember how they looked that night when Brexit, the result came in? You've never seen people looking more sick, have you?
I still can remember, because I'd gone to bed that night thinking, oh, well, you know, the referendum will be lost and we'll stay in Europe. And I remember getting up in the morning, putting the radio on and the telly, and Dim will be saying, and the shock result is that, by the way, oh my God!
Right.
Oh my God! That's the heart and soul of Britain, that is. The Brexit voters, the heart and soul of Britain, and they still are, and the majority of people do not want to rejoin Europe, and I'll tell you why, because Europe's crap.
Europe is. And here's the thing, it's not just that it's Europe, it's the EU.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean.
Ramonas is they can't work out the difference between, you know, like when I went to France, people were like, oh, look at Mike Graham, he goes to France on holiday. Well, why wouldn't I?
Yeah.
France is a great country.
Great food, great wine, what's wrong with it?
But, you know, what's ruined Europe is the EU and the organisation of the EU, but it hasn't changed the food. It hasn't changed the way that you can go and have a nice time in European countries.
It certainly hasn't, and France is a great country, and all the other European countries, lovely to visit, always enjoy it.
Now, the other story we have to cover this morning is the Albanians. Even Albania's a nice country to go to, actually, apparently. They've got some big beach clubs being built there. They've got some lovely seaside resorts. Yeah. They've got loads of money. Some of it has obviously been brought in by some certain, shall we say, nefarious types.
Well, funny thing is, I've just booked a holiday, a sort of villa in Greece, and the big selling point is, you can see it in the pictures, you can see Albania. So what I'm expecting to see when I get to my Corfu villa is hordes.
You've given it away now.
Hordes of Albanian prisoners who've been sent back from Britain. We've got a new deal. We're sending 200 more back to Albania. Now, I don't know what to make of this. As part of this policy, we're paying for Albania to build a load of flash prisons for these people.
Yes.
So why are we paying for Albanian prisoners? Why did we give France £500 million to patrol their own beaches? Why are we paying for other countries' infrastructure?
Well, I'll tell you why. It's cheaper.
Because we're idiots.
Well, no, it's cheaper for us to pay other countries, right?
I do get it.
But here's then the next question. Why is it so expensive to build prisons here when it's so much less expensive to build them there?
Yeah.
Why don't we build prisons here for the same price that we build them there?
I'll tell you why we don't build prisons here, Mike. We need lots of new prisons. But politicians like to pretend that they're so good at running the country that crime levels have plummeted. There's no need for new prisons. Crime levels are rocketing. They haven't plummeted. There is a particularly serious crime. We have a very urgent need for quite a few new prisons, but these idiot politicians will not do it because they like to signal their own virtue, just the same as they do about their insane eco policies.
Well, speaking of prisons and speaking of crime, the Just Stop Oil lot, which we saw were out in force yesterday, are out in force today again. But here's the thing. You know the guy that was detained by the police, rather roughly manhandled, as we saw, because he decided to throw a few of them around. He wasn't charged and he wasn't arrested.
Outrageous.
So he was simply detained, right?
Now, not that he wasn't charged. Outrageous that he was detained.
Well, exactly. But the point is that surely that's now a signal for everybody else to go, oh, well, if I go and push a few Just Stop Oil people over, all that will happen to me is I'll get detained by the police rather than arrested. What
can we do, Mike, to persuade the police that, look, you're arresting the wrong people?
I know.
Arrest the Just Stop Oil fools, those people blocking the traffic. blocking people from getting to hospital, to getting to work,
Enraging people.
taking their kids to school.
Yeah.
Arrest them. They're obstructing the King's highway.
Or just if you don't want to arrest them, detain them.
And as I said,
get them out of the way.
As I said yesterday, as I feared, it's proved that the only time the police ever got vigilant about demonstrators was for the King. So special treatment for the King. When the Republic people wanted to stage a demonstration, they were stamped on in about 2 seconds flat. Just Stop Oil, Extinction Rebellion, the woke coppers go right ahead, hold their hands, give them pizzas, smile and dance with them as well.
Yeah, because we don't think they're breaking the law.
Yeah,
really?
well, they are.
Yeah, well,
they are.
They're holding up traffic. The fact that they're moving slowly means that they're technically not stopping, which is not to say that they're not holding up the traffic.
What is this Sir Mark Rowley guy, the Met Police Chief? What is he actually doing? The public want you to arrest these people and to free up the highway. What is the matter with you, Rowley? It's just ridiculous.
Right.
It's ridiculous.
He's unturning stones. That's what he's doing.
Yeah, well,
he likes to
because he's another
stones.
wokey, isn't he? They're all woke. You know.
Well, when he was appointed, people went, a bit like Sue Gray, this is a man of great integrity. Oh, really? Well, why is it that he got screwed up when he was there the last time? Because he was there before, and that was when all of the bad stuff was going on. Anyway, we're nearly out of time.
One last thing I want to say. Tomorrow, if you think I was volcanic today, or both of us were volcanic, we get the migration figures. When the government lets 1 million people in legally every year, we may have a few things to say about that.
I think we may well do. I think we'll get those figures around about 9:30, just as we open up the show.
Perfect.
So that'll be good. We'll be talking about that tomorrow, of course. I'm allowing myself to throw to my next show, which I don't normally do. Coming up next, it's me. I'll be staying here to do the Independent Republic of Mike Graham. Kevin O'Sullivan will be back probably tonight. Are you on the talk?
Yes, I am on the talk at 9 o'clock. Yes.
So you'll be on the talk at 9 o'clock. In the meantime, there'll be plenty for us to talk about. We've got Anne Widdecombe coming up. We're going to be getting Prime Minister's questions as well. Peter Cardwell will be here. So much to talk about, and we want your calls, of course, as well. 0344 499 1000 is the number. I mean, the other big story that we don't need to mention really is old Rolf Harris on the front page.
I spent all day yesterday talking about him. Good, he's gone. A really bad guy, and I'm glad he's dead.
Yeah, I think a lot of people will say the same.